Hi everyone, this is a video I've been wanting to do for a very, very long time. When I first introduced the concept of a life operating system in Notion years ago, many years ago at this point, we had a lot of data we were capturing. We were tracking key metrics of our daily performance and our daily rituals. We had various aspects of our life across our systems, but we had no way to visualize and organize and interpret that data in the way that a visual chart or graph could do. Finally, Notion is launching Notion Charts, which is a charts and graphs feature native to Notion, embeddable across the page everywhere that you can embed any block in Notion. It is a charts and graphs block with a lot of functionality, a lot of variations that you can adapt for different types of data analysis. And finally, we have a native and effortless way to visualize the information that we're capturing across our whole life system. This makes the life system so much more valuable because it makes interpreting, understanding, and finding meaning in our data so much easier and more effective. So this really ups the value of a life operating system in Notion, such as PPV, which is the life operating system we've been covering on this channel since the very beginning, and we continue to cover. I'm going to have more videos on the PPV life system coming up, some of the upgrades and evolutions of it. But today we're going to get a new enhancement to the life operating system, the Pillars, Pipelines, and Vault system. Regardless of what life system you're using in Notion, this will be valuable. But I'm not only going to cover how to use the feature, because the feature is fairly easy to use. Notion did a great job of making it very intuitive and obvious how to activate the feature and control its various settings. I'm going to take it further and show how to apply it to a comprehensive life operating system, how to create what I call a life pulse dashboard, a single visual dashboard that's going to give you a glimpse across your whole life system, what's working, what's not, what's showing up as getting greater emphasis and what might be getting neglected. It'll raise flags where you might need to spend more attention. It'll perhaps confirm things that you have implemented by design, but this is an easy way to ensure that you're on track, to learn from what you've been doing, what you've been tracking, how you've been designing your life deliberately. So we're really going to look at how to apply this in a life system, as well as how to use the Notion charts and graphs capabilities. First to note, this is a feature that is largely skewed towards paid plans. Free plans will get one chart. That's it. So you can apply that chart however you think is most effective, but this might be for some people the reason to go to a paid plan. All the paid plans, even the lowest level, most inexpensive paid plans, will get the full capability of Notion charts, but the free plans will be limited to just one. And that's a problem when downloading templates. So now template creators have a challenge to decide how much do they emphasize charts, because they know that anyone on a free plan is going to be limited to only one. But it's up to you whether you want to stay on the free plan or get the broader use of charts across your system. As always, there are trade-offs. I will say Notion's inexpensive plans are astonishingly inexpensive for what you get, but the free plan is also astonishingly feature-rich for what you get. So pros and cons, that's a choice you can make. But the applications I'm going to show, this big overall visual dashboard, will require at least the lowest level paid plan, but it'll work perfectly fine on that low level paid plan. And for those on the free plan, this demonstration of this big dashboard is going to give you an idea of possibilities of how you might choose to apply the one chart you get on the free plan. So it'll still be valuable to everybody. And we're also going to touch a little bit on how this might apply to teams. Obviously, this has a lot of powerful implications for teams. A lot of the things I show in the personal plan, the PPV LifeOS system, is very much an individual personal life system, not a team system. I am going to be coming out with a team system, but that's going to be different. That's not going to be PPV. But I'll touch at the end especially about how I think the new charts feature will be most valuable for team users as well. Before we dive in, just a quick note, I've been a little bit slower than hoped on the YouTube video rollout. It is coming. I have so much in the pipeline, but I've also been putting the finishing touches on the first of 3 new programs that I'm going to be rolling out in the next few months. So the first one is extremely close, but it's taking a lot of my attention just to fine tune it and perfect it before we launch that. And then we'll have 2 more programs coming out shortly after that. I'm hoping to get this first big new program launched in the next few weeks. And then within a couple months after that, I'm hoping to get the next 2 launched together. So if you're interested in getting updates on the new program launches that I'll be introducing in the next few weeks for the first one and months following that. There's a link below in the description for updates on new programs. And of course, if you're on the newsletter, which is also linked below, you'll get notifications as well. Then once I get that launched, I'll be able to focus more consistently on YouTube. And I cannot wait because I have so many exciting things to dive into. We've got a lot to cover with Notion. And then we've got a whole bigger realm of updating on PPV and then expanding into a much broader range of life design principles and the frameworks and systems that PPV lives within. So there's like a whole ecosystem of systems within systems within systems. And I want to expand to the bigger systems once we get caught up on the basics of the Notion system, then the broader life system, and then the principles and frameworks around that. So with that, let's dive into native charts and graphs inside of Notion and how to apply it in a Life Pulse dashboard to give you a visual glimpse of your whole life system. So this is the Life Pulse dashboard. This is a fully graphical visual display of a lot of revealing insights across our whole life system in Notion. So obviously you could do a lot more than this, but this is what I thought would be valuable. And I want to demonstrate the idea of a single visual dashboard to give you a glimpse of the pulse of your life across the whole system. So I'm just going to scroll down briefly here to give you a broad sense of what this is looking like. And then I'll go back step by step through each of these, show you how they're built and how I find value in them. So this would be the whole system here and some notes at the bottom. Make sure I cover those at the end of this video about teams. All right, so the Life Pulse dashboard. First of all, let's look at the new charts feature in Notion. So as you can see, there are different types. There are pie charts, there are bar charts from the side, there are bar charts from the bottom, there are line diagrams, and that's fantastic. And most importantly of all, I mean, a lot of applications have charts and graphs, but the ability to embed them as blocks across your Notion system takes chart usage to a new level. We've had the ability to embed charts in Notion, but it was so cumbersome to actually apply our Notion data to them and then bring them back into Notion. Finally, we have the ability to effortlessly natively capture the data in our databases and display them visually in charts, and then apply them anywhere in our system so we can create dashboards, so we can create functional specialty areas and pages designed for the task at hand, lets you focus on just that one task with just the right visualizations, with the data, with the links, with the embeds, and everything else you need on any given page. So the way this works is, first of all, just creating a new one, type / start typing chart, and then you have the option of the 4 types of charts available currently. This is virtually certain to expand and have more options over time. Right now we have the vertical bar chart, the horizontal, the line chart, and the donut chart, which is a circle pie chart. And then you would pick the one you want, and then you would choose the database you want to be the source database, and you could choose from the suggested list or search for another one. So I'm going to delete this, but I just wanted to show you how to create it from scratch. And then now we can look at the ones I've created. Now I've created what I feel is an aesthetically well-designed, cohesive, monochromatic one, which is dark mode in the background and all purple. So you'll see right off the bat, you have controls over the visual design of the charts. So let's go into here. So these are, of course, connected to a database. So it's basically a type of database view. Now, if you click on the 3 dots here, it'll take you into the chart design here, and you can choose and switch between the different layouts. Easy enough. It's really very intuitive how they've created this. So I'm excited about how effortless this is to pick it up and start getting your hands dirty and using it right away. But I'll still walk through the features here. Then I'll get into what I think makes applying this increasingly valuable and best practices. So first of all, there's the source down here. This is the source database you're pulling the data from. And then after you've defined the source database, which you did when you created the chart, you now choose what to show. So in this case, we're showing the count of each status item. So what to show on the y-axis is status, and then the x-axis, which is the horizontal axis, the y-axis is the vertical axis. So across the horizontal axis, we're doing a count. So the number of items in that database, projects, with each status level. So we have active, future, next up, on hold, someday maybe are the status settings in our projects database. And then across the x-axis horizontally here, we're counting how many of each. So I have 5 active projects, 8 future projects, 3 next up, 2 on hold, and 1 someday maybe. So I might be at the point where I have a lot of active but no future. I need to start planning some things ahead. This gives me a signal that I need to do that. Let's just jump over to the projects database so we can see how this pulls from the project database. So as always in the PPV system, the command center shows us everything in our system. And I've added this Pulse dashboard link right here. If we go into the alignment zone where we have the full alignment of our highest level aspirations in life, all the way down to our daily and hourly actions in our tasks, the whole thing connected. That is one of the great powers and innovations of the PPV system. If we open our projects down here, we'll see we have these active projects, these on hold. This is demo data. So I just put some in here quickly, but you'll see we have the active ones, the on holds, the next ups, and the future ones. And all of that is being portrayed directly here. So as I add a new project, however I set the status, it'll be counted here. So immediately we know the status of our projects database. Now I've created this call out here to create a nice organized block. So this whole area here is for project management, and we'll cover more of these in a second. This whole contained square here is for goal setting. This whole contained square here is for daily data tracking, and then we have multiple views here on different types of data. This whole rectangle here is habit management and a view into the habits we're designing for our life. Here we have a whole block all contained together within a rectangle for milestones. Those are achievements and disappointments in life that we track, tracking them here quarterly. And then knowledge management has its own block here as well, showing a different type of visual layout. You can change and play with the size of the relative charts. So we'll come back to all these, but I point this out because this is a nice way to organize them. And this is not immediately obvious how to create this rectangle around them. So I'll just point out you do that by creating a call out, and then you put the graph and the chart in the title, demo space. Here, hit shift, enter to get a new line, title this up here with bold and the color of your choice. And then you can either type a chart here and pick the one you want, but you'll see it put it outside of the box down here. So you can pick whatever you want. But then all you need to do is click that block and drag it in and delete the space, and that's how you put it in a block. If you want to put them side by side like I have here, you'll want to create a page, put them side by side in the page, and then you go to the 6-dot handle and go turn into, and then you change it back to a callout, and it'll take the side by side orientation into the callout. A little bit cumbersome, but it gives you a really nice layout and display, so I think it's worth doing that on the initial setup. It really doesn't take much time. And then you have a beautiful, well-organized design. Otherwise, you'd have a lot of charts and graphs just piled on top of each other. So this border around them kind of organizes them by section of your life system. So here we've got business versus personal projects, the percent of our projects that are business and the percent that are personal. When you hover over, it gives you more details. It gives you the percentage. It gives you the percentage of personal. And this is nice because it gives you a sense of whether you have balance in your life or whether you're heavily focusing on one or the other in this stage of life. It's totally okay to be unbalanced as long as it's intentional and by design. There are seasons of life where you focus a lot on business. There are seasons of life you focus on personal. And you might even break this out by personal and family and different elements as well. Here we go broken out by pillar. So these are our value goals, our highest level goals, our life aspirations by pillar. So this really gives me a better sense of how I'm allocating my priorities across the different categories of my life. Pillars are the different categories of our life. There are previous videos on that if you want to go deeper into that concept. But here we have a breakout so you can get a sense whether it's balanced or emphasizing certain pillars in your life. Again, it's all okay as long as it's intentional, but this visual presentation will let you know how it is shaking out, and then you know whether you need to adjust or whether it's as you had intended. Now, in each of these charts, we have a lot more options than we've looked at so far. So again, we're choosing our source database, which again is projects. And then here we're picking type, which is one of the properties in that database. The type is personal versus business. Again, you could have more delineations if you want. And then we're having each slice represent the count, the total number of each item. So if we hover over it, we have 11 business items in our projects right now, and we have 7 personal projects. Now note you filter this just like you filter any other database, and we have one filter here. The filter is set to only look at things that are active, on hold, next up, or future. It's designed not to look at someday maybe or complete, because those are not relevant to our game plan. So you can control what is considered applicable to the chart you're looking at. You can filter out any aspect of any property you want. So in this case, we're filtering out by status, but we're graphing by type, which is personal versus business. And then you can sort the count, which is nice. We also here have a lot of color options. Now you don't have total flexibility, but you have a lot of flexibility. So one option is to do just this rainbow color, which is the default. Let's go here so you can see more variety of what the color looks like. And it's so easy. I mean, it's just intuitive how to do it. So here you get higher contrast and more separation between them. Or you can go in and pick certain more tightly defined color palettes, as I've done with purple, but you can do them, of course, with any color that you want. That's available in the Notion color palette. But I like the cohesiveness of them all being the same color, so that's what I've done across this dashboard. Again, just an idea or an option for you. You design your Life Pulse dashboard however you wish. So that's how we get a pulse of our project management. Now let's go down to goal setting. Goal setting is similarly designed inside a big callout box with 2 side-by-side pie graphs. And here we have 2 toggled within each other as different tabs to flip between. You can, of course, as with any database view, have multiple views inside the same block. Here, we're looking at projects by goal outcome. In this case, we have the percentage showing here because it's a little bit wider, so we have more room. So showing the percentage and the count as well as the name. We do that by going down into more style options. Here you can choose whether to have a legend, which puts the legend at the bottom, but I find that to be very cluttered. I choose to turn that off, and then I like to hover over it when I'm really digging into something, and it shows me the same data by hovering over it. I think that's just a more elegant display option, but again, you choose how you wish. More style options will also let you color by value, show the value in the center, which of course I think is great. It shows the total number in the center. Then down here under data labels, you can choose to show the value only, which is the percentage and the total count, the name only, and if you have space, the name and value. Name and value is nice, but if you have 3 columns, you probably won't have room for all that. So that's why on some of these, like this one to the right, or these ones up here, I just showed the name. And if I want to see the value, I'm just going to hover over the slice of the pie and I'll get the value and the percentage. I think that works great. And just to finalize the list of control settings here, you can save the chart, you can export it as you wish. I'm using a beta version here a few days before launch, so I don't think that's part of the beta here, but this will be part of the capability is you can export these as a PNG and download them or copy them so that you can paste them elsewhere. So that's nice to get visual representations that you can just quickly and easily distribute. So in addition to projects by goal outcome, I'm looking at outcome goals for value goals. So how many outcome goals do we have for each value goal? That tells me how much we're focusing or how much sort of ammunition we're throwing at each of our value goals. Again, if this is new to you, this is something we do in the Pillars, Pipelines, and Vault system. If you come back to our alignment zone, you can look up goal setting on previous videos in this channel, and it'll lay out the whole Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults goal setting protocol, which is, I think, adds a lot of new layers that you haven't seen in other systems. It's no more complex, but it connects, again, the lowest level daily and hourly actions of your life to your highest level aspirations with a physical connection of each layer throughout so that it's tangible, it's trackable, you know what you actually need to do to consistently move towards your highest level aspirations in life. Goals are sort of in the middle tier of this. We have goal outcomes and we have value goals. Value goals are your life aspirations. Goal outcomes are more tactical, measurable efforts to make progress toward your life aspirations. All of these connect to these through relational links. So that's why it's valuable in our Life Pulse dashboard to keep an eye on how many and which value goals are getting the most outcome goals designed and implemented to support and make progress toward them. So this gives us a clear glimpse of where we're putting our priorities and emphasizing progress. And then projects determine how we make progress on our outcome goals. So projects advanced outcome goals, advanced value goals. Over here, we have habits per goal because in the PPV system, there are two ways to move toward and achieve and make progress toward a goal. One is to have active projects applied to our active outcome goals. The other is to have habits and routines applied towards our outcome goals. Outcome goals can be achieved and make progress toward by either projects or habits and routines. This is something I think you see missing in a lot of other systems. It's all projects. And then floating over here is habits. But this really connects the idea of making progress on this specific set of goals that's connected to your life aspirations. Two ways of doing it: habits, routines, or projects, or a combination of both. So here we have a glimpse of how many and which habits and routines are applied to which outcome goals. And here we have a view of which outcome goals have projects that are fueling their progress. Again, at a glimpse, I get a sense of how this is all being played out in a practical sense. And if I feel the balance is off, then I go back into the alignment zone and I will perhaps bring in new projects that support different outcome goals, or design new habits and routines that will fuel progress on the outcome goals that I feel are being shortchanged. Another big difference with PPV and other systems is that we have not only habit tracking, but we have a habit design database where we set the clear intentions and how we're going to achieve our goals through clearly designed bundles of habits focused on outcome goals. And then in the more tactical level, we also do the habit tracking and the data tracking, which we'll get to further down the page here. So we're designing the intention, and then we're tracking and measuring what's working and what's not. And this gives us a glimpse to make sure everything is aligned and being applied as we had intended. Again, it's always okay to have imbalance in your life. Balance is not the objective. Intentional design to your highest level aspirations is what matters. And in any season of life, you may go heavily in one aspect of life or another. You may emphasize work, you may emphasize family, or you may emphasize travel, and let others, get a lot less focus and attention and progress. Totally okay, as long as it's intentional and by design. That's what we mean when we talk about life design. It's not about balance, it's about intentional design towards the things that you have prioritized in that season of life. So now we scroll down here and we get into our daily data tracking. So up here, we talked a bit about designing the intentions of our habits. And now we're tracking the performance of how well we did on those initiatives, those habits and routines we've been building for ourselves. And here I've stacked a whole series of these inside this one block. And of course, you could do a lot more. As always with our daily tracking, you're choosing what is most important to you. Here, you can't track everything, so you need to choose what are the priorities. What are you going to try to bring into your life as a habit and routine or performance metric? And what are you trying to remove in terms of bad habits? You're going to track that. Not everything, just the most important ones where you're trying to bring change into your life. Some things would be easy, so you don't need to track them because they're effortless for you to do as a matter of routine. They've already become a part of your identity. But it's the new things that are hard for you to do you want to track to A, see how well you're doing, and B, bring in that incentive to perform, gamify the process of doing better and better at it on a consistent basis. So here we're tracking the things that matter most to us. So in this example, we have percent of time that we stayed on schedule for what we planned the night before. This is all part of our daily tracking. There's a previous video on daily data tracking in the Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults system. One of the key metrics is at the end of the day, you rate what percent of your time you spent that day doing the things you had planned to do that day, the evening before. Things can throw you off, but by having a plan the day before, you have a default path that'll guide you. And if a surprise comes up, you have a specific thing you can compare against it. If you don't have a plan for the day, every little thing that pops up, you'll react to and just chase it. Now you have a specific comparison, what you planned and the surprise, which is more important. You can choose either, but you must make a deliberate, conscious choice, not a reactive, subconscious choice where you just follow the new thing that pops up on your radar. So we're tracking what percent of our time we actually did spend doing the thing we had planned the night before. And here we're tracking what percent of the work we planned to get done today, or fun activities or family activities that we had planned to do today, what percent of the things we had planned to accomplish today when we planned it the night before did we actually accomplish? And by tracking this, we get a sense of, are we making realistic plans for each day? And are we fulfilling the promise we made to ourselves when we planned that the night before the emotions of the day were tugging us in all these different directions? You want a clear, sober plan that you do the night before when you're not in the emotions of the moment, so you know what the right path is. It helps you do the right thing to progress and move consistently toward your life aspirations. So here what we're doing is monthly evaluation of what percent of these days we were on schedule with our time and accomplishing the things we intended to accomplish. Now, you could, of course, do this weekly, but I think it's kind of interesting to see consistently over the month. And by knowing that you're tracking this and you're going to have a score at the end of the month, to me, it motivates me to try to keep those numbers up day by day. So in that sense, weekly might be more valuable if it motivates you more because each day matters more in the overall calculation. Though I just like to see the history and how I'm improving and when I have a strong month or when I have a weaker month. And if I start dipping, then I'm like, I have a talk with myself. I need to get back on track and build this up so that I can achieve the things I want on the timelines that I'm pushing for. Of course, things generally don't happen as fast as we want them to, but I want to be feeling consistent progress. And I know if these percentages are higher, I'm going to be more reliably, more consistently, and faster in my progress toward them. So in this case, I'm monthly calculating the percent of time on schedule and the percent of time achieving what I'd hoped to achieve. We never really get everything done we had planned to do the next day. We almost never get 100% of what we plan to do, especially if we have a bit of a stretch goal in there, a reach. But, 50%, if you're just doing 50% every day of what you planned the evening before, you're going to be moving consistently towards the things that matter to you. So few people get even one big thing done each day that they hoped to do to move forward towards their aspirations. By tracking this, you're at least getting a solid percentage of progress consistently. And that's how we make a difference in our lives and consistently move towards our aspirations. So I'm also tracking some habits here. I've got a bunch of checks. Let's jump over. So this is an aggregate percentage of the 4 or 5 habits I've set out for myself to try to do every day. Let's just take a look at what the source database looks like. Again, in the alignment zone, if we look at our review cycles and our daily tracking here, you'll see I've got these checkboxes. So the measure we're looking at is the percent of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I want to do on a consistent basis. And it's calculating the percent. That's a formula that's just calculating the percent of these 5 things. So back here in our Life Pulse dashboard, this is month by month, the average of those things that I try to do 100% of every day, but almost never get 100% done. This is demo data. I have months that are much worse than this, and I have months that are, well, this is as good as it gets usually for a month. But if you're doing 75%, that's pretty darn good of your habits consistently across the month. Again, weekly might be another option for you if you find that to be a better time frame to measure this progress glimpse. But whether it's weekly or monthly, you're getting an overview of when you're going strong, when you're falling off a little bit and need to put a little extra effort in, have a little talk with yourself about how you need to change your activities and your behaviors and fulfill your commitment to yourself on the habits that you have committed to doing. So as I started dipping down here from 67 to 53 to 48, I'm like, all right, I got to get this back on track. I can do better than that. And so then give it a big effort and you nail it at 77%. And then you hold it here in the 70s and that's a solid performance. So if I see it dipping again, I do a mental reframe. So here I'm tracking sleep. Sleep is so important. It's one of the best and most important ingredients to being effective, to being our best selves. So here I'm tracking how many hours a night I'm getting sleep. Again, I'm doing a monthly here, but you could do a weekly. Weekly might be more revealing, but I like seeing the history of what's normal and trying to set new highs. And when I start falling, I want to reset it. Now, this last one's low because it's early in the month and there are a bunch of zeros. So it's not really a good measure of the current month. But once you finish that, you'll get your score. And again, it's a gamification. So we're trying to put high numbers on the board here, and it motivates us to do the things that we're tracking. Obviously, there are important things in life that can't be tracked, but if it can be tracked, it helps you achieve it. And it brings clarity on when you're succeeding and when you're not. and when you need to reframe your psychology. All right, so that's daily data tracking. You choose the things you want to track, prioritize the things you're trying to change in your life. Then we come down here to habit management. That's its own block down here. We have habits per goal. So this is a different view than we saw above. These are all the habits that I have designed and which goals they're advancing. So one habit could advance multiple goals. And it's sometimes very helpful to have a single habit that advances multiple goals. That's sort of a twofer or a threefer in terms of the impact. It's higher leverage because it's not only advancing one goal. It's okay if you have a habit that advances one goal, but it's nice when one habit that you're doing anyway is going to advance multiple goals in your life. Again, we're focused on active goals, not future goals or on hold goals, but active goals. And this just gives me a sense of which are like this one down here, reading is fueling 4 different goals because it's bringing in ideas and knowledge to implement there. Weekend family fun is advancing 2 of my active goals. Working out is advancing 2. And then many of these are just advancing 1. So it's just a nice little glimpse of which are little more productive habits in the sense of advancing your goals. Habits by bundle. I've talked about this before, and I'll talk more about this in the future. I take the habits and I put them in groupings. So we have our morning kickoff habits. I have 4 habits that are bundled in the morning kickoff. I'll do them together. And if I'm time blocking, I don't always time block, but when I'm really driving hard, I'll time block, and those will be one block. It'll be the morning routine. And so I've got 4 habits in there. Then the morning startup, which is when I get to my desk, I've got 5 habits built into the morning startup. Evening wind down, I've got 3 routines in that aspect of it. When I say habits, I mean routines. I use those terms interchangeably. And then the end of workday, I've got 2 routines that I do. And I just like to keep an eye on how these bundles are built and which ones are packing in more things. It's just a nice view. And I like to think of the habits and routines by bundle rather than by specific item, because I know if I get one started, I'll do the rest with it. So if you've got one that you're good at, you bundle some things you're not as good at with it, it helps get them all done rather than just the one you're good at. And then they each get a time a day. So that also helps get them done. And then habits by pillar just gives me a sense of how I'm building my habits and routines to serve the different categories of my life. We've got whole videos on pillars and on habits if you want to dive deeper into that from the PPV framework. And then down here we have milestones. So I track accomplishments and disappointments. Here I'm going quarterly. The number of disappointments and the number of accomplishments by quarter. It's just nice to see this. Obviously, I don't put every disappointment because if it's just a failure, that's progress towards a bigger objective. It doesn't count as a disappointment. It was just an iteration that didn't work out, but it's part of an ongoing series of iterations. These are true end of game disappointments. If something comes to the end of the road, then it gets marked here. But accomplishments you mark more of because you're constantly moving on things that would be disappointments if you stopped, but you're not going to stop. So you keep going until they become an accomplishment. So clearly this should be a higher number. But I'm just tracking how many I'm getting done per quarter. It feels good to see this number of accomplishments stacking up quarter by quarter. If I see I'm coming up low on quarter, I might make a big push at the end, boost that number up because I don't want to see these numbers dip. I like to see at least 3, ideally 6 or 7 accomplishments per quarter, tangible, specific, documented accomplishments. I really feel those. And by seeing it here, it's so easy to forget about them. By seeing it here, it reminds me I am making progress because it's so easy to look at our shortcomings and our failures. It's hard to remember the wins, but by documenting them and revisiting them and seeing them in our Pulse dashboard, it feels good. It encourages us, or at least it does for me. It means a lot to me to see that. So if you're not doing that, I would encourage you. I think you'll find it to be highly effective. And then down here, the last block is knowledge management. This one's laid out a little differently just to show you the variety. You can play with sizing. One of the options in Notion charts under more style options is small, medium, large, extra large. So you can play with relative sizing, perhaps to emphasize importance or to give a visual variety. Here we've got knowledge topics by pillar. In our knowledge vault, we have all the topics that we want to expand our knowledge on and are constantly learning and growing in those various knowledge vault topics. This is just breaking them out by pillar, which are the categorizations of our life. It tells me which areas of my life I'm learning the most in. I'm actually investing time and effort to learn more in. And not every pillar needs a big investment to learn. You'll see product development, content creation, customer execution, family, and mind expansion. These are things where I'm constantly investing to learn more and do better. Other areas like home and household, utilities, stuff like that, I don't need to invest that much time to research and learn. I guess personal finance is fairly low here, but I keep it simple. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. So I'm not learning as much. I have a fairly balanced view here, but it would be okay if it didn't. But it's just interesting to see what slices of your life you're investing in learning and making an effort to grow in terms of your knowledge and skills. Similarly, over here, Media Vault by type. The Media Vault is where we capture all the different sources of information, articles, videos, podcasts, and so forth. This just breaks out what I'm actually consuming most of. Mostly articles by a total of 60%, tweets, 25%. These are ones I've captured and connected to various knowledge topics in my system. And then books, 7%, podcasts, 3.5%. It's just kind of an interesting view of how I'm consuming media. I might even look at this and say, I could probably learn more by spending more time on books. So maybe I need to boost the books, cut the tweets. So maybe I need to drop my emphasis on tweets, boost my books, but obviously it takes a lot more time to get through a book. And each book is being counted once. So you need to take it in context. But it's interesting, and it could guide how you could improve your media consumption. And then finally, we have our tools, skills, and services vault. This is where we research new devices, new software, new people to hire for contractors or to get things fixed around the house or to teach or consult. Any tool, skill, or service is captured in our tools, skills, and services vault. That's where we research them. That's where we define what we're using, what we're not using, what we're considering to use, and capture information in the research process. So it's easy to find if we come back and need to make a new decision or a change in any of these tools, skills, or services in our life. And similarly, we've broken them out here by type, which types would be SaaS and automated services, software, agency, service provider, contractors. It just gives a sense of what I'm capturing and researching and documenting information that's available in my life system. So a glimpse from a bird's eye view. So that gives you a pretty good glimpse of what's happening across your life system. It takes virtually no time at all to just skim this and understand what's happening. So it's not that this is revelatory and it's going to just open your eyes to a whole new way of living. It's just that once it's set up, at a quick glance, you get a sense of whether your life is balanced and prioritizing things the way you want it to and how you're performing. Now, you could do a very similar thing to this in your monthly review pages, in your quarterly review pages, and of course, in your annual review pages. You could build out this kind of dashboard and have this glimpse by those different time periods. That would be super valuable too. I started by just making a global life pulse dashboard. I find this to be fun and interesting and in some cases revealing. So this is a great starting point. Then next step I think would be to take a lot of these pieces or even additional pieces that aren't here and put them into the templates for my monthly review and my quarterly review in particular. I think that'd be a nice addition, and then look at as I sit down each quarter and month. And one option is to just come to the Life Pulse dashboard, but this is very aggregate. We're looking at month by month, we're looking at quarter by quarter in some cases. And when you get to a monthly review, you certainly want to be looking at least weekly, if not daily. So you have different time horizons when you're in the monthly review or the quarterly review than you would on the Life Pulse dashboard. That's why it's valuable to have each of these in context. And that's the power of a Notion life system, is that you have a context for everything you do, whether it's a functional thing you're actually performing or whether it's a review. In every case, you have a tailored view specialized for that activity. Now, I'll just note additionally for teams, I think what we've seen already gives a lot of perspective on ways this could be used for teams. Daily data tracking, instead of tracking personal habits and sleep, you can track sales calls or subscription growth. Obviously, you'll track different metrics, but you're doing daily data tracking. Businesses even more want to do daily or weekly data tracking and then review the performance and have those graphs available for the team. So another great example of how we can use charts and graphs in Notion. The big thing that's not highlighted above that I think is worth noting for team uses is that in many cases, you'll want to do pie charts, the round circle charts of the different owners of different tasks, different projects, different activities. So you can break out and see which team members seem to be overloaded, which are underutilized. Now, obviously, not every task is equal, so just a task count won't tell you that, but it might give you an insight whether it's worth digging deeper to see if certain team members could take a little bit more load, or if certain team members are overloaded and how to balance that better. You could do that across many functional areas across your system, breakouts by team member. And I think that'd be super valuable. Tasks would be a great place to start with that. So lots of ideas here. It's very easy to implement. Just remember to filter by the things that you want to narrow it down to, apply the aesthetic design and coloration that you like, pick the orientation of chart that you think will be most revealing. Obviously, if it's by date, you wouldn't want to do a pie chart, but the other three, especially the vertical bars and the line graph, work great by date. And yeah, just dive in and get your hands dirty. And once you start playing with it, more and more ideas will come. So that's it. The actual building of charts is not that difficult. The real power comes when you think of how you can dig in and reveal insights by graphically depicting your data. So think about how you can make actionable decisions, what information, what trends would be helpful to see. That's one of the great things about visualization is it reveals trends when you're dealing on a timeline or breakout percentages. You want to look for patterns and trends and then use that information to improve in future iterations on everything you do that you've prioritized. And this will help you make better choices on what to prioritize. And that's it for this overview. Build your own LifePulse dashboard to reveal the things that are of interest and of value to you. In future videos, we'll dig deeper into other aspects of Notion that help you build life systems. We're not just covering features here. Sometimes there'll be new features that come out, but they don't really lend themselves to building comprehensive life systems. So that's not what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on applying these individual features and tools in Notion and practices and behaviors in life that build comprehensive life systems that help us consistently move towards the things we value most in life, the things that give life meaning to us. So it's about comprehensive systems that enable progress towards our life aspirations. That's what this channel is all about. We'll do more Notion stuff coming up soon. And then beyond that, we'll do a lot more that's not Notion related. So fundamentally here, Notion is just a supporting tool. It's not the point. Don't get bogged down tinkering and refining your Notion system. Put a system in place that lets you define your life aspirations and break it down and move consistently toward it. Use the Notion tool to move towards your life aspirations, to achieve your goals, and to knock out projects along the way. Don't get bogged down tinkering. That's the danger of Notion. So charts and graphs have a temptation to over-tinker. Pick the ones that are of value. Don't just do things because it's neat. Do things that reveal interesting information that might help you find patterns that will help you perform better and make better choices as you go. So I hope that's helpful. Lots more to come. Like I said, I've got a few really big new programs coming that I'm going to be launching soon, so I'll share more details about that. If you're interested in that, get on the mailing list. The link for that is below. As always, the newsletter is ramping back up as I'm getting back into the routine with YouTube videos and as I get back into launching these new programs. I'm also ramping back up the newsletter. So the timing has never been better to join the newsletter because I think of the YouTube channel here and the newsletter as two complementary paths that do not overlap. They each have separate information, but those are my primary focuses, newsletter and YouTube. So that's the whole package there. So those links are below. And with that, signing off, lots more to come.